Okay, it's April 20th and we're back. It's been a while, but that's alright. There was plenty to listen to and get bored with prior to this one. Now, speaking of this one, this is what we're going to call Greatest Hits Package. Because by popular demand, I've been asked, requested to highlight some of the funny stories that I tend to tell the kids. Now, it should be said that my giant fan base of two are the ones responsible for this, so you might call them my biggest fans. And I've decided to get up this morning on April 20th, 2022, and go ahead and record this. It took me a couple of hours to wake up and get ready to do it. I was asked again last night to make this video, and I started talking about how it usually has to be the middle of the night before I do it, and I have to be uninterrupted and awake and within my abilities to talk straight for an hour plus at a time. And that didn't go over so well because of the fact that when anybody that is, starts talking about anything having to do with why they can't do something, I'm the first one to jump on board and point out how they're being a wussy whiner, crybaby, feeling sorry for themselves, pity party, and to man up and do it. So I have no excuse. It was thrown back at me, my own basic attitude. So here I am, our greatest hits. So we're going to preface this with a bit of a thought that I had about what we're doing here. And that is the fact that you're not going to hear me talk about negative subjects. I think I may have said that before in like my What Is This Channel video, but I want to go into that a little bit because as I'm going through some stories in my head, I often think about, well, I remember this person and I didn't like him. I often remember, well, that person really did me wrong. There are, the world is full of people. The world is made up of people. Without other people, there would be no good experiences. There would be no bad experiences. If you focus on only the bad, you will find yourself unable to find any good. So you have to understand there is a balance there. Now, in 2022, I must say that given my time on this earth, that I see way more bad than I do good anymore. And the good that I see is usually, half good at best because it always comes with a look at me kind of attitude or what can I get out of this by doing this good deed kind of a ploy. And just the simple idea of doing or saying something or just flat out being nice because you want to be and that's who you are. You have to be able to do that. You don't want to be one of the negative people. You don't have to be looking at what's in it for me or will this get me some greater reward later on? Will this somehow work to my benefit or who will notice? Understand that there are negative elements on the earth from other people, and if you live your life letting that experience affect you on a weekly, daily, hourly basis, whatever, you're never going to get too far as your own internal contentment. So yes, people are going to do you wrong. It's a fact. And if I were to sit here and I could make hours upon hours upon hours of videos about people that have wronged me, people that were just pieces of trash, people that I couldn't even begin to understand where their thought processes were coming from because I simply couldn't comprehend how they did such a thing. Okay? These things happen. Don't focus on it. And you certainly don't want to focus. Don't turn a blind eye to it. Be aware. Be aware that everybody's capable of letting you down at some point. And everybody probably will let you down at some point. But you don't have to live in fear of it or anticipation of it happening. You do have to protect yourself. So if you catch a hint, a sniff of a bad trait in somebody that you're not terribly interested in seeing how low they can go, then separate yourself from that person. You shouldn't have to look back 5 years later, 10 years later, whatever, and say, what a horrible relationship that was. Friend, coworker, whatever, boyfriend, girlfriend, it doesn't matter. So don't live in a world of peaches and warm fuzzies either, where you only focus on the good, because now you're blissfully ignorant, and you don't want to be that either. You have to be balanced, and when you're balanced, then you can do something like what I'm doing here and easily focus on the fun, the good, the entertaining, even the educational, whatever. But you don't have to sit and harp on anything that's gone wrong. I'm not holding any secrets. It's just a matter of I choose not to focus on anyone that's done me wrong. If the world weren't full of good people and bad people or decent people, I don't know. I don't like saying the term good people so much, but if the world weren't full of people, period, then you wouldn't have anything. You'd be alone. If you were the only person on earth, you'd be absolutely alone. But if you didn't have that mix, where would you get things that other people can produce, whether they're inventions or music or a movie or a good book or just flat out companionship? Sometimes you have to accept the good with the bad. Sometimes you have to put up with something that you don't necessarily like. That is life. Nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's going to match you perfectly where you're just like one brain all the time. Nope, not going to happen. But the level of negativity is what you do need to watch out for. So, with all those things in mind, now bear in mind, this is a mega video, so I've got 1 hour and 41 minutes to fill. Quickly, we are going to move away from negative, ugly, stupid, fatties, grossy peoples, whatever. Anything you want to call bad, we're going to move away from that, talking about it. We're not going to harp about that. We're going to give a shout out to a young man, a young Finnish man, and then we're going to move on to the video itself. This is Zuma. I think it's Zuma's Revenge. It's a different path than the Age of Empires, but it's also a good time waster, and I can play this game half awake and be thinking about something else and making a video. So what I do is I start a new character every time I play and start from scratch and just play till I basically die and see how long I can go and call it good. So this particular game, I think I went pretty long. And so that's what you are seeing on your screen if you're watching the video portion of this. So, greatest hits. These are stories that my greatest fans, my two greatest fans, my two only fans love to hear. So we're going to go through them. Now, there's no particular order here. They're going to come as they come. And I am not even sure what type of order that's going to be, but we're going to give it our best. I will try to use only first names. I will try to paint the story as best I can from my memory, and we'll see where we land. See if we can fill an hour and 41 minutes tonight. 4:20 a.m. is what it is. 4:20 on 4:20. I should screenshot that. for the kids, just to show them that I was up. And here we go. Give me a sec. We're going to put that in the community chat box. I was up at this time. Look. All right, so I'm funny. All right. Where was I? Oh, yeah, stories. Okay, so let's just get started. Wasting any time. We're 10 minutes in and I haven't said anything of consequence yet. Where's the funny stories, fat man? Well, we're getting to them. All right. So we're going to start off with a couple that came to mind right off the bat. We're going to start off with the flaming couch. Now, right around 10th grade, I was finally had... Did I have my driver's license at that point or not? I don't think I did. And if I did, I certainly wasn't going to be given a car overnight. But I was allowed to go stay the night at my friend Rocky's house. Rocky's house was a house of sin. You could get away with anything there. He was in 10th grade and smoking by then. Or at least smoking occasionally. I'm guessing he thought it was cool. His parents smoked. And he would steal cigarettes, and we could stay up as long as we wanted to, and his parents usually went out for half the night anyway on the weekends, so we were left to ourselves, so we could pretty much get away with anything we wanted to. Well, it started off all innocently enough. We started off with just playing like hide and go seek out in the darkness and stuff, and things of that nature, but eventually a couple of other friends joined myself and Rocky, and Ray came in, and so now there's the three of us, and then there was somebody else, and I'm trying to think of who that fourth person was, and I haven't come up with it yet, but it may have been Perry, but I just don't know. Anyway, so there was this fourth person, and we finally evolved after we were doing all the outside bad stuff and everything. Now, Rocky lived on the river and right below a giant canal. And so the canal was huge and it was fast moving. It was a given that you just stay away from that thing. And, but we would walk down that canal road and we could, couple miles, 2-3 miles, whatever it was, we could be in town, which we did our share of. Walk into town. There was one store that was open 24 hours a day. Go in there, buy a candy bar, whatever we did. I don't know what we were doing there, but nothing ever became of that really. But I was staying down there quite often, and so we were looking for something to do all the time. So we got into fishing. I never was much of a fisherman, interested in fishing. Okay, fisherman, whatever. But it was a really good thing to tell my parents we're going to go night fishing. And, once in a while I bring home an old big old stinky catfish or something, and they oh yeah, he's out night fishing, and it was really just an excuse to go down there and stay at Rocky so that we could do whatever we wanted to. But we actually did try fishing. So, about 2 miles up the road was the city sewer plant that sat on below the canal also, and did its treatment, and then dumped its wastewater or whatever, cleansed water into the river. And it was considered to be a pretty good place to fish because the warm water coming out mingled with the water of the river, created something kind of conditioned. And so you fished right above the sewer plant, and it was very popular. And there was a place that people could drive down to. And, people that hang out at a place, they start to do things like make it their own. And so we would go down there and camp. And I don't know how it started, but we started carrying a half gallon of gas with us to start a fire down there, a campfire. And, that was pretty cool because you just go gather up driftwood and such and throw a little gas on it and light it, and you had yourself a nice campfire going. So we're doing this on, I don't know, probably weekly or every other week. I don't know how often it was. But it was fairly often, and Rocky and I, we were bored with that. We were both kind of wild and troublemakers, and we wanted to have wild fun. We don't want to sit on a fishing bank and look at or listen to the river in the middle of the night because you couldn't see anything. And, between the 4 people, maybe catch 1 fish, 2 fish, whatever. Big old stinky catfish, like I said, typically. Occasional carp or whatever. But so anyways, we're starting to play with the gas. And because, it doesn't take that much gas to light a fire. So, and gas was about 80 cents a gallon back then. And so you could, half a gallon of gas, 40 cents, anybody could afford that. So you have this little half gallon of gas, you light your fire, there's plenty left over. So we would make, on the beach, it was kind of sandy and large. We would make designs out of gas and light them up and have big flaming stars and all kinds of things. Or we'd wait till we'd pour gas around somebody when they weren't looking. Pour it on the ground in a little circle around them and then light it, and they'd have this flame shoot up around them. Watch them freak out. So we were having fun with that. Okay, well, on this particular night, we were heading down to go and fish for the night. And we get down to the spot. There's nobody there, but there's a couch there. Oh, just some 70s or 80s couch, one of those big overstuffed, weird-looking design material things, with like the wings on it for the headrest. Instead of having like a little lump, they had the big wing looking thing where it flared out. So we were fishing off of it. We were sitting on it. We're using somebody's couch. That's great. And we had our collected firewood and everything. And of course, Rocky and I, after 2 or 3 hours, we're bored. We're bored. And, well, what do you want to do? Well, we could walk into town. Yeah, it's the same old thing every time we walk into town. Go over there to the food store and walk around and do nothing. Go home. Yeah, well, yeah, guys, let's go home. Oh, okay. Well, we would still want to fish because the other two were serious about fishing. They were into it. Well, we're not into it. I certainly wasn't. Really, I don't know. I've never understood fishing. I've never been a fan of it. But whatever the case. So here we go. We're going to figure out something to do that's going to be extremely fun with what resources we have, which of course were a couch, firewood, and gas. What are we going to do with these 3 things? So we piled the firewood up onto the couch. Those guys were looking. And we doused it in gas, and we pushed it out into the water, and it somehow floated on its own, and we lit it and pushed it, gave it a big old final push, and it drifted out there into the current, which was a slow moving current. And it was pretty monumental to see. It was certainly epic for sure. Flames were probably 3-4 feet high on it, all up and down an 8-foot couch. And there it is, just burning, floating slowly away. And we just thought we were the coolest thing. We thought it was fun. Okay, but then again, we didn't recognize how memorable it was because we, I don't know if we went home or what we did at that point, but we just went and did our thing, moved on in life, went home, fished some more. I have no idea. Camped, slept. I have no idea. I don't remember that part. And we watched that couch float away, just heading downstream. And I think we did walk back to his place at that point because it seems like we looked out from the canal road and looked down and we could see it floating and still heading downstream. So that was pretty cool, and we thought it was pretty funny. And I don't know, a week or 2 later, I think Rocky called me at home or something, and he said, look at the newspaper. And I said, I don't know if we had the newspaper at that point. The newspaper in that town came out once a week, so if we had a copy, great. If not, I went and found one, or he brought it over. So I have no idea. Anyways, there was a part called Law Enforcement, and in that part were all of the sheriff's reports and everything. And we were so proud of ourselves because we'd made the paper, because right there in the sheriff's report was massive flaming object reported floating down the river. And oh my God, we were proud of ourselves. We were absolutely, we made our grand mark in this town of 4,000 people. We've become somebody. We set a couch on fire and shot it down the river and made the paper. Oh, we were proud. All right, so that wraps up that story. Let's move on. I kind of made some notes here because knowing this was going to be a long affair, I wanted to not lose direction. So the next story is chicken dumplings. And my mother worked at the senior center as a cook, and she was always bringing home different ideas and such. And I don't know, maybe this was even before that. I remember the chicken dumplings being something that she had got from somewhere else. Let's just put it that way. Old friend's recipe, grandma's recipe, I don't know. But basically it's chicken and homemade clumps, flour, bread, water type egg. And but instead of being a noodle or something, they were these massive clumps. And they were always dry on the inside and kind of pasty. And on the outside, there's something about chicken fat that clings to such things and makes them kind of slimy. So we were served this at dinner time. And I was absolutely disgusted by them. I don't know, I must have been 6, 7 years old. So yeah, it was before she worked. Anyways, so she serves us these dumplings. Everybody eats theirs. In fact, I remember my older sister loving them. And my dad, he would eat anything. He didn't care. It wouldn't matter what it was. He'd eat it. And so she serves these dumplings. And I'm kind of checking my status here. Check my time real quick. Okay, good. And I'm not liking them at all. And she's, of course, and so I'm the last one at the table. You finish your plate before you leave. That's the rule. And I'm there, and I can't stand these things. I don't want anything to do with them. But it's gone on at least a good half hour. I was stubborn. I wasn't going to eat them. And finally, I think I said to her, if I eat half of them or if I eat some of them, can I leave? Can I go play? Whatever. I don't know if she took that or not, but what I did do was wait for her to leave the kitchen. Our table sat right off the kitchen. It wasn't what you'd call a dining room. It was just an area. And behind that area were this row of cupboards. And this row of cupboards was not used. They were empty inside. Why? Because the table was right there, and so there was always somebody's chair up against these cupboards. The kitchen area was too small for the table. You would have had to have had a much smaller table to be able to have access to those cupboards, so they just simply went unused. Well, I'm sitting there and still waking up, but that's all right. This is here to bore you. Remember that. This is here to make you go to sleep. So I can say anything I want and pause as much as I want because you're going to go to sleep. Right? Right. All right. So, cupboard, dumplings, chicken slime, gross. What can we do here, 7-year-old mind? Oh, I know. Let's open the cupboard and throw the dumplings in. So we did that. I did that. One at a time, I spooned them out, and one at a time, one at a time, I'm spooning them in there, and I didn't even like the meat. And I think that she made it with my grandpa's chicken. My grandpa butchered chickens every year, and the chicken, I don't know if he was supposed to, it stunk, okay? They were fine-looking chickens, but they stunk. The meat stunk. And even fried chicken, my mom would make fried chicken out of them and give me a piece, and the steam would come out of them, like you'd tear a piece off, and the steam would bubble out, and the steam just stunk. And I never quite understood why. There must be something about that process. Maybe soak them in salt water, brine them or something. I have no idea. Anyway, so I got stinky chicken, slimy noodles, or clumps of dumplings, we call them. I'm not eating this junk. I'll go hungry. I'm okay with this. And so I'm slowly but surely throwing them back in this cupboard. Now, that's basically the end of the story, because I showed Mom, look, Mom, I did it. I finished. Okay, go play, blah, blah, blah. Move on in life. I never once thought again about what happened to those dumplings and pile of meat. I mean, it was a good-sized bowl. So nobody ever got in those cupboards. We never used them. I don't know if mice came in and got them. I don't know if mice existed in the house. I have no idea what went on with them. But hiding the dumplings and not getting busted. Not bad. Not bad for a boring story, right? All right, now we're moving on to the Poo Genie. Yep. This is a popular one. I am the Poo Genie. So, I was in my 20s, living in Seattle, hated the rain, hated the mildew, hated the boring, depressing clouds, wasn't too fond of the people there either. So I decided that I would take myself to the exact polar opposite of climate, and I moved to Arizona. I took a job there, and I flew to Kansas to interview, was offered the position. Actually, I flew to Arizona first and then to Kansas, double interview, offered the position, accepted, packed my bags, and flew back down to Arizona, was picked up at the airport, and immediately went to work for a company down there. It was a small company, but there were a few of us, and I didn't like it. I loved the area. I loved seeing, giant cactus and taking drives and everything, because I had a company car while I was there, and seeing the countryside and seeing Arizona and loving the heat, loving my sinuses were much clearer than up in Seattle by far, and it was a much more inviting place. But I didn't know anybody, and I made some friends and everything, but nothing really was. It wasn't home. It just wasn't cutting it. So, and I really disliked the job. The job just wasn't what was sold to me. So my interest level in the job was continually falling downward every day. And so I decide that it's over. They were happy with that decision because they weren't liking me too much anymore either. And we parted ways together, employer and employee. And I was like, well, now I don't have a vehicle. I need to go on home. What am I going to do? So I rented a van. And I want to say it was a Sears van, because I think Sears was into rentals back then. I'm pretty sure of it. And I got this van for a pretty good price, and I got it for a week. And I was like, cool. Well, I'm going to go on home. And I packed up my van. This is a full-size van. I didn't have enough to even halfway fill it, but I packed it up anyway and hit the road. And I said to myself, I'm going to drive straight home, which was not Seattle, by the way. But anyway, I'm going to drive straight home, and I'm not going to sleep. The maps say it's a 27-hour drive. This is long before GPS or anything like that. And so my maps give me an idea that it's about 27 hours. I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to make it in one shot. So I leave Phoenix, and I start heading north. And that's not true. I headed west and went to the California border and went up a highway that went north and came into the bottom side of Las Vegas. And I think I left mid-morning. And anyways, so here it is. I'm driving. I'm 5, 6, 7 hours into the trip, and of course I'm getting tired and road weary. So I'd pull over occasionally and do my thing, wake up, walk around. I don't know what I would do besides that, but I would get back in, and the time came to buy some gas. So I bought myself, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 Mountain Dews. And I remember I had both cup holders had new fresh coffees in them, so I must have bought 2 big old coffees. So I started caffeining up. I'm drinking coffee. I'm drinking Mountain Dew, and it's dark now. I remember going through western Nevada as the sun was setting. So it was summertime, and so it had to have been 8, 9 o'clock at night by then, whatever. So I'm rolling up this highway, not doing too bad, and I come to the highway. I know I need to turn north at one point. I need to get off the highway that I'm on and turn north to head into southern Oregon. And I had my route mapped out fairly well, so I wasn't lost or anything. But man, I was getting tired, so I'm just chugging coffee harder, more. I think I'd ran myself out of drinks at that point. And I do remember my last stop for gas somewhere in northern Nevada. Little tiny gas station, and I pull in, I pump some gas in the truck, in the van, and I get some more drinks, and I continue on my journey. Well, I'm past the point now where the Mountain Dews and the coffees are even making a difference. I am tired, and my stomach is starting to make these noises. Oh, little pains and pushes and grumbles, and this isn't good. Now, northern Nevada is basically absolutely deserted. It's nothing but highway and scab land. There's nothing much to see out there. You can't even see lights from the distance. It's just pitch black, and you're just going along doing your thing. You have no idea what the landscape is. There could be hills, there could be mountains in the background. You simply wouldn't know because it's dark. And I finally realized that, yep, I'm going to have to take a dump. Now, I had the foresight to bring a roll of toilet paper. That was smart of me, because I don't know why, but I had taken it from my apartment bathroom from the reel, and I guess I figured it was mine. I don't think I took it because I thought I'd have to poop. I took it because it was mine. And I'm taking it home. This my paper. And I go ahead and I found this intersection in the road. Now, it looked really deserted, and I could see an old building. The only reason I could see it was because it was painted white. And I figured, this is like an intersection, and that probably used to be a gas station. And yep, looking down, I could see that I was kind of in an old parking lot, gravel parking lot. Yep, all right, this is the place. So, so I kind of, again, bear in mind, it's pitch black. There's no moon out. I am in a dark, giant room, basically. So I'm looking around. Ah, man, if only I could find something to sit on, take a poo. What can I do? What can I do about this poo? And I'm looking around. I found nothing. And my stomach is now going into desperation mode. Let me out. And I am just out of options. So I go to the back of the van, thinking, well, I'll use the bumper as a kind of a stool. And I'm trying to coordinate myself to sit on this bumper, and it was a sleek bumper. It was a newer rig. Bumpers have gotten smaller over the years. They're not these big giant steps anymore like they used to be. They're more molded to the body of the vehicle, and there's no sitting on this bumper. Okay, what? Okay, I'm out of time here. I'm out of options. All I've got is the side of the van. So I lean my back against the side of the van, Now, there's no door on it or windows or anything. It's just a cargo van. So it's one solid piece of sheet metal. So I lean against it and I start slowly sinking down, like bending my knees, crouching down. So my back is supporting me against the van. I'm in a pooping position and I let her fly. All right. And I find myself having to keep pushing. I'm still slipping down. So every time I'd have to keep pushing up. I've got nowhere to put my hands. So I finally decided, well, this wasn't this wasn't a quick process. It was a slow process. And I'm leaning against this van with my back. I got nowhere to put my hands. I got nothing to grip onto. I certainly don't want to try and put my hands down and catch the ground, knowing what I'm dropping there. So I fold my hands together. I cross my arms, so to speak. And so I'm now sitting there with my back against the van, sliding up and down, pooping at the same time, sliding up and down with my arms crossed, and it occurred to me, I don't know if it occurred to me at the time or a little bit later, I've got to look like the Poop Genie. Because if you look at any classic pictures of the Poop Genie, not the Poop Genie, the Genie, any Genie, even Aladdin, their arms are always crossed in this big, strong, crossed arm look, and I was actually thinking of a show, I Dream of Genie, and the genie was a girl, and she would cross her arms like that and nod her head and do her little genie thing. And I said, man, I look like a genie, and I'm taking a dump. This is embarrassing. This is just crazy. I got to get out of here. But I can't, because I keep sliding up and down, and so you got this up and down poop genie going on against the back of a van, and I'm pretty sure that poop's going everywhere. I'm trying to keep my legs out of it and trying to keep my feet spread and everything else. Well, I get stuck. I can't get up at one point. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm stuck down here in this Poop Genie position. Well, I remember I put my hands out to the sides of the van and tried to be like Spider-Man and push my way up. And I think I managed to inch my way up. And I'm feeling pretty good about myself at this point. I get done. I'm basically done, but I'm not quite 100% finished. There's that little thing called cleanup of one's self. And about the time I do, this light absolutely blasts me. Big lights. And I realized that I had parked, yes, in an old gas station, yes, in an old abandoned gravel parking lot. The part that I didn't realize was that there was about 8 or 10 trucks parked there. Big trucks. And one of them had woken up and decided to hit the road, and I was right in his beams. So here he gets to flash, he gets to start his truck up, turn on his lights, and look right in front of him, and there's the Poop Genie. And I don't know if I finished cleaning myself up or not, but I got the heck out of there. I remember jumping in that van and turning my head. Nobody's going to see me. Like he would be sitting there with a camera or something, taking pictures. No. But in northern Nevada, as if anybody would know me anyways, but the Poop Genie fled the scene and lived to tell about it. So there we go. The Poop Genie is done. And we're 38 minutes in, an hour to go. Okay, quick story. Snowballs at cars. So my friend Perry used to drive up to my house in the middle of the wintertime. We were in high school and we both had vehicles, but there was nothing to do on a weeknight. So he would always drive up and we would walk down to the little store. I think I may have told this one before, where we clean out Clarence's deli case right when he closed. $2 gets you everything in the case. And we would go down there and gorge ourselves on cheap, convenience store type food, burritos, pizza pockets, JoJo's, chicken, whatever. $2 gets you everything, 2 or 3 bags of food. We're happy high schoolers, but I don't know if he wasn't open one night or the storm. I think it was a pretty good snowstorm, and we didn't go down there. But Perry still came up, and we were still bored, so we decided to go down to the end of my parents' road and throw snowballs at cars. And it was maybe a quarter of a mile from their house to the end of the road, and it was a fairly busy road. So we were standing off to the side, and the cars would go by, and we'd throw snowballs at them, and we were giggling to ourselves. Nobody would stop. At one point, there was a flash of brakes, and then they went off, and they kept going. Well, we must have scored the wrong guy that night, because we both hucked our snowballs at a car that was going by, and this guy slams on the brakes, kind of fishtails the car to a stop. And we look at each other, and one of us said, "Run." And I'll tell you what, I did about the 500-yard dash, or maybe not 500, let's see, probably 200-yard dash, in what could be only described as world record pace. And we had no idea who was in that car, what they were going to say or do. And I ran, and screw Perry, I'm out of here. So I ran halfway down to my parents' house, and displaying athletic ability like nobody's ever seen. And off to the side is a field full of cows, and there's your typical, about a 5-foot fence, 4 to 5 foot barbed wire fence wrapped around that field with posts that were driven into the ground, and the posts were 5 or 6 feet tall. And I remember sprinting towards the biggest post I could see, which was about 6 inches across. It was, they were trees at one time, and big wooden posts, and I ran straight at that fence. I ran straight at that post. I grabbed it with one hand and kicked upwards, and I cleared that fence like some kind of Olympic athlete. I cleared a 4 or 5 foot fence, didn't hit the barbed wire or anything, jumped across that, and went down this little hill and hid beneath the base of the road where this creek flowed. So I'm hiding down there. I know I can't be found. I suppose somebody could have followed tracks, but that would have been about it. I was hidden. Now, my friend Perry wasn't quite so lucky. He was fairly lucky that night, but not as good as me. I wasn't sure where he had went, but I noticed that the car wasn't coming down the road after me. After about a minute, and I'm breathing, super hard. I'm out of breath, but I've got so much adrenaline going, I could probably have punched through a wall at that point. But whatever the case, I get a little brave, and I start creeping up the hill, and I look at the fence, and I'm like, how in the world did I get across this thing? I actually had to climb it to get out, but I had one-handedly vaulted across that thing on the way in. So I climb out, and I see the cars up the road towards the top of the road from where we'd been throwing the snowballs, and there was a guy outside, and he's got his headlights shining, and he's looking around, and he's yelling stuff, and I just kind of stayed back, and he finally gets in his car and leaves. And I walk up the road. Perry! Yo, Perry, where you at? In the pig pen. What? And there was a pig. He had jumped the fence into a pig pen and laid down right up against the fence, because on a pig pen, usually the bottom is boarded up so they can't see outside, because the pigs will dig. And he was laying there the whole time, and that guy's headlights were right across the top of him, but because of those boards, he didn't see the guy. He didn't get caught. Now, I don't know who the guy was or what he was going to say or do, but oh my God, we were freaked out, and we were laughing so hard, because I did the superhero vaulting, superfly, Superman, whatever jump, and Perry's laying in a pig pen. So there we go, snowballs and cars. All right. Now, before that, that was a high school thing. Now, before that was me and Art. And my friend Art had moved in up the street, across the street actually, into a rental and with his family, and he was a couple years younger than me. But Art and we got along great. I really enjoyed him. It's funny, as his older brother was actually my age or thereabouts. Didn't have much in common, but man, me and Art, we were always together. He was like me. He liked to go do stuff. So I was into building model cars as a kid. And we'll call this story the flaming intersection. So I was into building model cars, so I had all my little bottles of paint and my plastic cars, and you put them together and paint them with the glue and the paint, and you have a car, oh, I got this car, and eventually you got sick of them and blew them up with firecrackers. But at this point in time, I was no longer building model cars. I must have been in about 9th grade, possibly 10th, but whatever the case, I had all this glue and supplies left over, so the model glue for model cars, I always liked it because it smelled orange. It smelled really strong orange smell to it. So it was always kind of pleasant when you're building model cars. And I had this tube of glue, I don't know, smaller than a standard tube of toothpaste, but certainly not small. And I was showing him how easy it burned. You put a little dot on something and light it, and it would sit there and burn. Pretty good flame. Well, what we should do? We should walk down to that intersection about a mile away where there's a 4-way stop, and let's go down there in the middle of the night. And we're going to, on a weekend where there's lots of traffic that way, and we're going to put some glue out in the middle of the road, and we're going to light it. We're going to hide and watch. So we did exactly that. We walked down there, and we didn't want to walk on the road so anybody would see us, so we cut across fields. Well, cutting across fields in those days were you're either going to hit barbed wire or you're going to hit electric wire. But if you knew where they were, you were good to go. We crossed the barbed wire, got over to the other road. It's all within half a mile at the most. No way, it was not even a mile. Anyways, we get over there, and here we go. We're going to lay out some kind of little design in the middle of the intersection, and we're going to light it, and then there's a pipe that went under the road for drainage, culvert, about a 3-foot culvert. We're going to hide this thing. And that was our big plan. So we get out there, and we pour it out, we light it, starts flaming up pretty good, and we didn't have time to sit and ooh and ah at it because immediately a car is coming. Art, get in the culvert, get inside, hurry, hide. And he was smaller than me, and he's like, I don't think we're going to fit in this, because it was full of rocks. And all these rocks had been pushed into it. And I'm like, get in, he's going to see us. And so I'm pushing Art through these little rocks into this big pipe. Get in. And he's yelling at me, stop. And I'm like, why? And it was full of spiders. Spider webs everywhere. His face is going through web after web, and there's spiders all over the place, and I didn't care. I pushed him in there, and then I crawled in the opening myself, barely, and I could still see the road was the thing. And I'm looking up, and this guy stops in the middle of the road. He stops, and he looks, and this is the middle of the intersection's on fire. And this is, maybe 10, 12 inches around and maybe a foot tall. It's not a big fire, like a little campfire, but it's on fire. Who drives up to an intersection in the middle of the night, in the middle of the country road, and the intersection's on fire? So we and this stuff is long burning too, by the way. It doesn't just go right out. So we're standing there, or we're hiding there, and this guy's he's studying this fire and looking at it, and he didn't even put it out. He just gets in his car and drives away. But there's more cars coming. Art's freaking out. Spiders! There's spiders on me. I want out of here. I finally, come on, get out. And we're brushing him off and brushing me off and everything. And I mean, whatever spiders there were, they didn't seem to kill us. But whatever. They weren't deadly spiders, apparently. Anyway, there's more cars coming. And we don't want to go back in that pipe. And there's nowhere else to hide. It's a bare, flat intersection. We got to get out of here, Art. Yep. Let's go back the way we came. Yep. So we start running. And there was a ditch, an irrigation ditch that you had to jump. And when you jumped the ditch, the farmer's fence was right on the other side of that ditch. I mean, it was almost like right in the ditch. And so I jumped the ditch, which was running at high water. I fell in. So the lower half of my body is submerged in the ditch, but I don't care. It's summertime, big deal. And so I'm gonna crawl underneath this fence. I can see the wires in front of me, and what do? I forget that it is an electric fence. And I reach out to lift the wire up and grab that. And sure enough, I get hit with whatever the voltage was, and oh man, electric fences are nasty. And it brings out, when I got shocked that time, it brought this like weird girlish scream out of me. So I reach up, grab the fence, ah! And I'm in some kind of opera or something. And I can hear other people have gotten out at the intersection now. And they're looking at this fire, and I'm over here performing opera in the field. And Art's rolling on the field floor laughing at me. And I let go of the fence, and I finish crawling underneath. I crawl underneath of it. I'm wet. I'm shocked. I'm an opera singer. And we slink on home. And we didn't even really get a chance to brag about that one because the glue was cool enough, but, Mike the shocked opera singer in the middle of the field, that was much more entertaining. So that one is done. Let's move on to going to college in Spokane and living with my friend. We're going to call this Wrong Way. So we didn't have much money, and we didn't, we were going to college. We're the poor college students, and we're doing our thing, just living life and going to college and eating at Dick's and getting fat. So the only form of entertainment, the idea of going to the movies or something was just completely out of the question. That costs way too much money for us. You were entertaining yourself cheaply. So, but at that point in time, the 80s, gas was cheap. So, and he had a Volkswagen Bug. So one of our biggest and most loved forms of entertainment was harassing people. We would be sitting there bored. We always watched two shows because we had 2 or 3 channels on a black and white TV that was about 12 inches on the screen. And he'd look at me or I'd look at him. You want to harass people? Let's do it. All right. I don't know if I told the Warren story or not. I think I may have. But anyways, so we had this weekly, or actually almost daily at some points, entertainment of go out and harass people. And that really just consisted of driving around in his Bug and seeing people on the street, and we'd say something to them like, "Hey, what's going on?" We thought, "Oh, we're funny. We're funny. Hey, what's going on?" "Oh, we're funny." And or we'd start picking out things, about them, hey, what, their clothes they were wearing or whatever. Anything you could think of to say. The whole point of it was to say something to them, yell something at them, but keep driving. It was kind of like a drive-by verbal assault. And it was very entertaining to us. And we just went after anybody we could. And we had to go downtown to do this. And downtown in that town was all made up of one-way streets. So to go one direction, you had to go down this street, and if you wanted to go the other direction, you had to jump up a street or down a street and go back the other direction. It's all one ways. So we're driving around, having the time of our lives, going out harassing people. Probably swung into Dick's and got whammies because that's what we did. I didn't gain that 100 pounds overnight, but it was quick. And so we're just enjoying ourselves and harassing people and laughing at ourselves about how clever and cool we are. And we finally turn onto this street. Now Mark's driving and I'm I'm the main harasser at this point. So he's setting me up. He's looking for people. So he's paying attention to the sidewalks and stuff. And he keeps complaining. I'm scanning the sidewalks too. So I'm looking out the window of the car. I keep hearing him complain. You idiot. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? You idiot. And I was finally turning around. What's going on, Mark? He's like, all these stupid drivers. Look at them. They're driving in my lane. And I look up, I look down, and I said, Mark, you're driving backwards on a one-way street. And he's like, oh my God. And there was nowhere you don't just turn around on this thing. He had to play it out. And the harassment part was very, very fun, but the wrong way that day was even funner because of his reaction. If he had just realized he was on a one-way street going backwards, then he would have said, oh no, got to figure out a way out of this, turn down an alley or something. But no, everybody else was an idiot that day but him. Good, fun memory. So we will move on. Speaking of Mark, we will go on to the shed painting story. Mark's mom had a storage shed out in the yard. She had went and bought all this spray paint, asked us to paint it. And I think it was just white. She'd bought white. And we were like, okay. It was a metal shed, so spray paint was fairly appropriate. And I go ahead and pick up my can, and he picks up his can, and come on, we're two guys that are just out of high school at that point. We're bored. We don't want to be painting a shed with spray paint. So Mark gets the idea of looking for more paint, and we okay, so I think we're looking in the shed, or he goes in the house or whatever. Anyways, he comes up with all these other colors: black, blue, yellow, reds, and we totally I don't know. I guess his mom was so easygoing, and she didn't have any expectations of us, or her son. I don't know. We painted everything. We painted just whatever we felt like saying. Mark was a big Van Halen fan, so he painted Van Halen on one side, and I don't know what I was painting on my side, but we just painted our graffiti all over it, threw the paint cans on the ground, took off. And so that for a good year, this shed sat over there. All nice white shed, or half painted nice white, with all of this other stuff written all over it. I guess you had to be there on that one. It probably isn't as funny hearing it, but I'll tell you what, looking at the shed and then doing it at the time, and the utter disregard that we had for her nice shed was... it was entertaining. All right, we're going to move on to the Duster Turkey. I like naming these. This is kind of fun giving them names. So the Duster Turkey. I was in about 11th grade, and my car was a 74 Duster. And my dad had an excavation business, very small, and so he had good relationships with customers, and one of them called him one day and said, hey, there's a gift waiting for you down there at the grocery store. So we didn't know what it was. So he sent myself and my brother-in-law into town. I was driving the Duster. It's either right before Christmas or Thanksgiving, but there had been snow on the ground, so I'm thinking maybe Christmas. Anyways, there's snow and there's ice, but it's all been cleared away, and so there's just patches. So, I had done my share of, having fun driving in the snow and everything, but it was kind of over. So we went to the store and go inside and give them our name, and come to find out that we had a turkey waiting for us, a nice big fat frozen turkey. So we claimed it, threw it in the back seat of my car, and headed home. My brother-in-law was a big guy, bigger than me, probably roughly 6 foot something. And obviously, I think, I was still in school, so he probably outweighed me by a good 50 pounds at least. Anyways, he's sitting over there in the passenger seat, and I'm always showing off, trying to have fun in my car. And doing anything I can to get wild. And so I take this back street. It's on the way home, but it's a back street and it's less traveled. My reasoning was there's going to be snow and ice on it. We can have some fun, spin around in the car, this kind of thing. And so I'm doing that. And we're driving right past this where the little health club was for the town, and we drive right past that. And by this time I've got the car basically sliding sideways, and it's sliding towards me. So I'm the driver, and it's hitting, and I'm sliding. So I'm seeing the oncoming road, and I look down as we're sliding sideways. I don't know, we're probably going 15, maybe 20 miles an hour. Not terribly fast, but it's a lot of weight to be moving on just sliding on ice. It's not a sled. And the car, with us in it, we're above 3,000 pounds, so that's no slouch in weight. Anyways, I look down and I see that suddenly the ice ends and it's bare pavement. And I saw that right before it happens. The car hits the bare pavement sideways, goes up on two wheels. We're up on two wheels, balanced on the side. The turkey goes rolling across the back of the car. This loud thumping noise as it's hitting the roof, it's hitting the back window, it's hitting the side window. It's just tumbling around back there. Bob, my brother-in-law, we didn't wear seatbelts back in those days. Nobody did. It wasn't the law. Nobody cared about seatbelts, really. He goes up on his side, slides over, lands in my lap, and we balanced there for just a split second. And then the car went back down to its normal four wheels. We didn't flip over anything. And it flipped him when it hit the ground. It pushed him. It jumped. He jumped. He kind of flew through the car. Big guy. And he's like, kind of like this hop, like a frog. Bloing over to the other seat. And he looks at me, and he's just staring at me. He didn't know what to say. And I didn't know what to say, except I started laughing. I was kind of freaked out by it. I remember my hands were a little trembly, but what else are you going to do? So I'm laughing and I'm giggling, and he's just staring at me with this serious look on his face, like, who do you think you are? Or what was that all about? Or I have no idea what he was thinking. But we would talk about that one in years to come. It was always a fun story. Me getting silly and stupid in the duster, and then there was the duster turkey. All right, moving on. Let's talk about my friend Frank. 8th grade. Frank was this smart-mouthed little brat. So I got along with him perfectly, because that's what I was. But he was actually small. He had some kind of a condition. Something to do with his digestive tract. He would get super bad gas. And he could stink up a classroom. Okay, so everybody knew him as Frank, Frank with the gas. Stinky Frank, but not in a bad way, because he was very liked, because he was so funny. If I thought I was funny, Frank was me times 10. He was a funny kid. And he could make fun of anything. His sense of humor that was just outrageous. And we both loved video games. And we're talking about a time when, Pac-Man and Defender and Asteroids are at their peak. And so video games did not mean sitting at home on your Xbox. It meant going to a store that had a video game machine and you played a game for a quarter. And he lived in town, I lived in the country, but we played video games. We loved that. And so we were always talking about video games and having a good time. And he had a brother who was actually a twin, but completely looked different from him and was perfectly healthy. And his name was Richard. Anyways, Richard was very serious and got straight A's and everything. And Frank and me, we were total screw-ups. And So we go to our 8th grade science class. We scored it together, and we were happy because we always seemed to have the bad luck where we didn't have a lot of classes together. But that year, going into 8th grade, we got Mr. Rainey. And this is perfect. Me and Frank, science class, great. So we chose two desks to get that were near each other, right up in the front corner. And we would sit there. We didn't care what he was talking about. It didn't matter what the subject matter was because we were in our own world. And I do mean that. We were completely in our own world. And everything involved finding a reason to laugh. So the couple of things that stand... And we were giggling constantly and being told to shut up constantly because he was kind of a serious teacher. He was kind of hardcore, kind of one of them stronger, firm teachers. So we were... always getting told to shut up, quit laughing, and everything. And two things that stand out in my head is he's talking about something to do with architecture, and he's talking about bridges or something, or I don't remember what he was talking about, but he said the word buttresses, and big old buttresses, and then he went on to refer to flying buttresses. And I hear Frank, and I'm just kind of, I'm not giggling at that point. I'm just kind of paying attention, not paying attention, whatever. I certainly wasn't serious about being a student. And I look over, and Frank is just dying of laughter. And Rainey's up there talking about flying buttresses. And I look over, and Frank shows me his paper. He's got a piece of paper, and he's drawing these big fat rear ends on it with wings. Flying buttresses. It's funny now. And I start giggling and dying of laughter, and he stops class. Why do I always have to tell you to stop it? Be quiet. And we're holding our laughter in, and I remember putting my head down on my desk and looking down at the ground through my desk, through the opening, and just laughing so hard I'm shaking and trying to keep it in. So we finally got over that one, but it was a good one. It was a highlight of our humor at his expense. So he always wore those slacks. They're pants. They're made out of like polyester or something, and they're loose fitting and kind of saggy and everything. You wear them with a belt. They're kind of like semi-casual dress pants, and he liked to teach, and he would walk over to an empty desk, and he'd put his leg up and lean on his knee and talk to the class. He was really into his teaching. And we again, Frank, obviously the instigator, he's going, look. And Rainey is got his leg up on that desk, talking, leaning on his knee, and he's got in the back of his pants, he's got his wallet. But because the pants are flexible and soft and they sag down, his wallet, the back pocket had kind of dropped down right below his dumper, and it looked like he had a big old load in his pants. I mean, he looked like he had just pooped his pants. Big old, I don't know what kind of wallet the man used, but it was obviously thick, and it's like, look at it. He pooped his pants. And so we're laughing and giggling, and he has no idea why, because we don't have papers out. We're not passing notes. We're just laughing. All right, I've had enough of you two. I've had enough. You're going to split up. I mean, this was after being thrown out in the hall to shut us up, one at a time. Mike, get out in the hall. Frank, get out in the hall. He finally just said, nope, you're not going to sit together anymore. So he splits us up. I have to sit on one side of the classroom. Frank has to sit on the other side. And it worked. We didn't get to sit there and make fun of him anymore. Well, Frank had this condition, whatever his medical condition was, it had to do with his gas. He had to get taken and operated on. And his mother took him to Mexico to have it done. So he was gone for like a month. And he finally comes back, and I guess Mr. Rainey felt sorry for us. Here I was without my friend. I'm all dejected and everything, and he Frank comes back, and I'm all happy to see him, and he says, okay, you two, you can have your spots back. So he gives us our spots back. The same day, we're back to making fun of him. I don't care if Frank got an operation. I just know he's back. And he didn't care either. He's back. He's happy. And we're right back to making fun of him and his stupid teaching and his stupid pants and his dumb shirt and his bald head. You name it. We're laughing ourselves crazy about it. And we ended up back out in the hall. Whatever. Can't do this. Can't do that. All right, split you back up again. It was a never-ending process, but all good fun. Frank and I, those are some good memories right there. I wonder whatever happened to him. I never saw him again after 8th grade. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to Armando's truck. That's a good one. So I'm in high school. I believe I'm a senior. And, I had a very modest vehicle. I just had some kind of driver that my dad had picked up at some sale or, I don't know, some trade. I never had any special cars when I was in high school, not anything. So I was always kind of jealous of anybody else's cars. And the janitor, Armando, had a big Ford pickup. It was lifted up. It was very tall. It was green. And it was a big 4x4 looking off-road truck thing. And he told me that it needed a fuel pump. And I was in auto shop. And it was very common for us to fix stuff for teachers and, other people. So he says, can you put a fuel pump on that? And I said, oh, yeah, easy. I didn't even know what a fuel pump was. And so he gives me the part and gives me the keys and says it's in the parking lot. Go ahead and take it and pull it around to the auto shop and put a fuel pump on it. And I said, yep, I'll be over there all day because so I had to have been a senior because at that point I didn't have any classes. I just hung out at the school all day. I had already fulfilled my requirements. And so I went on over there and figured out what the water pump was. The fuel pump, and unbolted the old one and put the new one on. And it was hard to reach it. It was all jacked up truck and hard to get to and everything. And so I got one bolt in. It was 2 bolts that held it in. I got one in. That's good enough. Yeah, stupid, dumb high schooler. Didn't care. Because all I wanted was to go drive this truck. And so I got one bolt in, got it tight, put the other one in. I think I know I had it in there, and I think I just had it finger tight because I couldn't get a wrench on it very easily. Anyways, I start up the truck, and it works. Hey, that's good enough for me. And take off in it, and I see one of my friends. I can't remember who it was that hopped in with me. I think it may have been a guy named Rayfield. Anyways, he hops in with me, and we go hit Toboggan Hill, which was the big hill to conquer. And it's a pretty good sized hill. The front's fairly easy to get up in a 4x4, and the side is pretty close to impossible. But we decided, now we got out there, and I put it in 4-wheel drive, and we realized the 4-wheel drive didn't work. It did not have 4-wheel drive, so all we're going to be able to do is go up the front. And so 2-wheel drive, light pickup. The tires weren't even that good on it. And we decide that we're going to head on up, and so I put it in gear, and of course the only way to go up a hill is to go as fast as you can. So we hit that thing hard, and we running up it as fast as we can go, and I'm driving. And eventually it loses traction, and we didn't even get to the top, and we spin out. And so now we're stuck on the side of the hill in this big green jacked up truck with only 2 wheels that spin. Well, there's only one thing to do. Back down, right? Oh, no, not me. I'm going to go ahead and try to turn around. What possessed me to do that, I don't know. But I guess I felt confident enough that I wasn't going to roll it. And that sound you hear is me scratching my back. And so I turn around in the middle of the hill. Rayfield, he's like, I'm out of here. He gets out. I'm not. Come on, just get in. No. Not till you're done being stupid. Okay, so I turn around. I back up and I just turn the wheel and crank the front end around and say, okay, you done? Get back in? Yeah. So he gets back in. School is long out. We had disappeared. I don't know where we'd went besides that, but that was the part of our trip I remember the most. I don't know where we went, if we went out in the country, if we went up into other hills, but we were gone a long time. School's out. Armando's looking for his truck. The auto shop's locked up and closed. And here we are out cruising around in this truck. And finally we go back to the school. And I'm going down this street a little too fast, and apparently only the back brakes worked on this truck. I didn't realize that until I tried to come into the school parking lot kind of fast, and I hit the brakes, and the back brakes locked up on the truck, and there's Armando standing out there watching us. I come into the school parking lot sideways with the back end locked up, skidding. Big loud sound like a dog howling, like that. And white smoke coming up everywhere from the tires on the ground, and here he is looking at me and his truck, and he's just shaking his head going, what have I done? Why did I trust this dummy? And I get out and I give him the keys and said, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. I didn't. And it was true. I actually didn't mean to do that, but it was cool. And so I give him the keys, and that's that. Well, the next day he comes to me and says, what'd you do to that truck? I don't know. I put a fuel pump on it. What do you mean? That fuel pump's hanging off by a bolt. What? Nah. Yeah. Well, it worked when I had it. You saw me driving it. It worked. I don't know what happened. Yeah, of course. I didn't put it on tight enough. It's because I didn't put it on at all, really. I just bolted it in there until it ran and took off. So, needless to say, Armando never let me work on another rig of his again. And that's okay, because he didn't have any other cool ones. And let's see, what else? Let's go with growing up at my sister's house. We'll talk a little bit about the number 8 room. Now, my sister and her husband had bought this house. And they were young and they were wild. A lot of wild stuff went on at my sister's house. It was the house of ill repute, the black sheep house of the family. It was the crazy place, the party place, whatever. Anyways, they didn't have a lot of money either. So they had this 1 bedroom in the house. It was a 3-bedroom house. 3 bedroom, 1 bath. And they didn't have a use for the bedroom, so they kept the heater off in it. Well, for some reason, the bedroom door had a number 8 on it, so we always called it the number 8 room. And now you open up the number 8 room, 2 things are going to come at you. Number 1, it's really cold in there. No heat, always cold. Even in the summertime, it seemed like it was cold in there. Number 2, it's apparently where they would let the cat go to take a dump. I have no idea why, if there was a litter box in there or what, but there was poop everywhere. So you got this poop bedroom, and there was a bed in there, but the bed was collapsed, and so it was like the mattress had become a hammock. It was such a horrible bed, you couldn't even sleep on it unless you wanted to sleep curled up on your side or something. Whatever the case, here's this horrible bed in this freezing room full of cat poop. But it was somehow going there to visit. It was an adventure to sleep in there. So, or at least hide in there. And so we had, her husband had some mature comic books, and we would steal them and go read them in there. And laugh and giggle at this adult humor and stuff that we weren't old enough to read, but we did. And so we're in there. I don't know how old would I have been, probably 10, 11. 9, somewhere in there. And the neighbor kid Eric and I were in there, and we were hiding under the sheet in this weird hammock bed, collapsed piece of junk mattress, and we're laughing too hard. She doesn't even know why we're laughing, but she figures we're up to no good. I have no idea what she thought, to be honest, but she didn't see the comic book we were reading. I know that. And because it was under the blanket. So she comes in, and I guess just for good measure, she starts whipping us with this. She had this fly swatter, and she starts spanking us with a fly swatter through the sheet, because it wasn't a blanket we were hiding under and reading our stuff. It was our sheet. It was an A sheet. Anyways, so we're hiding under this sheet reading this book. She's whacking us with a fly swatter through the sheet. We don't even know why we're in trouble, but because you're in trouble, it automatically hurts, 10 times worse than it really does. So we just peel on out of there and go off and do something else. Well, that's the end of that. Well, that house, I never stayed there for more than a night or two at a time. I wasn't there a long time. And so there were lots of short. Now, what they did there on a regular basis, I don't know. But what I do know is that when I was there, it seemed like there was always something crazy going on, something wild. We had food fights there. Thanksgiving dinner turns into a food fight. At one point, she let this deaf guy live there. And I think his name was Kevin. And he was like, when he talked, he would mumble, he would make noises. And I tried to learn some sign language and stuff because he was just, in the end he was deaf, but he was there to party. He wasn't there to somehow better himself or anything. He was there because that's where the party scene was. And I came to not like him because of that, because I could see that she wasn't living a life that my parents would approve of. I was starting to question the lifestyle there, and this guy just coming and living there and eating their food and partying all the time and such. I wanted him gone. I guess I was getting really turned off by the whole concept of the house itself. So I set him up. I took some money out of her wallet. It was in her purse. I opened up her purse, opened up her wallet, took, I don't know, I think I want to say about $10, $20 out. And I wanted him to be caught. So I didn't even pocket the money. And to me, at that point in my life, that was a lot of money. But no, I'm gonna get this guy. They won't get rid of him, and they won't change their ways. So I'm gonna help him out. So I put the money. Where did I hide it? Maybe he had a bag or something, or a place where he slept. I have no idea. I don't remember where I hid it, but I implicated him either way. No matter what, I pinned it on him. I put that money there, and when we went to the store, or she went to get money to go pay for something, I have no idea, but she quickly discovered, because they didn't have any money. They didn't have much money, so you kept track of such things. Where did $20 go? I mean, that's food for several days back then for a family. A couple days anyway. 2-3 days, whatever. So I started, kind of dropping little hints that I had seen Kevin poking around back there. And so she confronted him, and sure enough, made him open up his stuff or something, and he was caught. Had no idea why. And so Kevin, the deaf guy, went away shortly thereafter. And the funny part is it really didn't change anything, but I guess at the time it made me feel better. So anyways, as I grew older, I continued to stay there at her house. And my friend, now Eric, had moved away. He had lived right next door, but then moved away. But then they would come back and visit sometimes. So Eric came, and I was excited because I hadn't seen my friend in a while, and he's going to stay the night there, and I'm going to stay the night there. And so instead of sleeping in the number 8 room, we're going to sleep out on the couches now because we're older. we're going to sleep on the couch. Big growth, I guess, sleeping on a couch versus a bed. So and they had 2 couches in this family room. So he's on one couch and I'm on the other. And I'm going to sleep. I'm starting to go to sleep. And Eric, I think we had talked and stuff and made jokes and whatever, but we were, dozing off. And I think he was asleep. But I was still awake. And I watched my sister come in the middle of the night. And she comes down the stairs into this family room. And I said something to her, and she didn't pay any attention to me. And I remember, thinking, well, this is weird. And I didn't know what was going on, but I said something to her again. She didn't respond to me. Oh, okay. So she goes right over to where Eric's sleeping and sits down right on his face. And it wakes him up because he can't breathe. He's got this big rear end poking on his face and smothering him, and I hear him yelling, "Becky!" And I'm like, "Oh, what's going on, Becky? What's going on?" Still no response, and I'm kind of freaked out. I'm like, "Well, what's going on? This is so weird. So I run and I wake up her husband. Greg was his name, and Greg, what? Greg, what? Becky's sitting on Eric's face. What? And he comes out, and she's still sitting there. He's struggling. Probably only able to breathe about 50%. She's got a big old rear end in his face, pinned down on the couch, because, he's just a kid. And he says she's sleepwalking, and he grabs her, and he says, let's go. And she finally kind of responded, she kind of like said some noise or said a couple words or something. But anyways, he leads her off, and that was the end of it. But that has never left my mind. That poor kid. No wonder he struggled in life later. And the final story about that house is her roughly 2 to 3 year old daughter, Rachel, learning to be potty trained. And I don't think I had a hand in it. I think I was just a spectator. As much as I like trouble or instigating trouble, I don't think I did that one. But anyways, my sister had bought this little blue planter. Planter, yes. Where you put a planted pot in it, or whatever, pot of plant, whatever, plant a pot, whatever. Anyway, so you'd in the little toilet bowl, you'd put a plant. It was ornamental and decorative and didn't work. And she had it sitting up on the counter. I think she had bought it at a yard sale or something. But I do remember it was blue, and I do remember that it was pretty funny because my niece, Rachel, crawled up on that counter, or ledge. It was kind of a ledge-looking thing. And for all of their efforts to get her to go in the toilet, in the real toilet, it hadn't worked yet. But she came in out of there and was so proud of herself. And she had went and took a dump right in that little fake toilet, and was very proud of her young self. And it was hilarious because it shocked everybody. And again, you probably had to be there on that one, but it was it's cute and funny at the same time. Kid story. That's a nice way to wrap that one up. All right, we've got about 13 minutes to go, and I'm done on this one. But I've got a lot more stories, so let's pick out one or two and see if we can find something. Okay, they're going to go with the tape measure. The tape measure of doom. So, between my 5th and 6th grade summer, we were moving to a new house. Well, it wasn't a new house. It was an old house, but it was being renovated by my dad and his family. All these uncles and aunts would come over and help and everything, and they were adding on to it. And a new family had moved in at the rental across the street, and so I had made a new friend that summer, and him and I were the exact same age. Within like 2 days of each other. I wonder if he remembers that, because I remember that. Anyways, so My dad had a dump truck parked at the front door of the house, and that's where everybody was pitching garbage from that they were, yanking out old insulation, sheetrock, any wiring that they were replacing. I mean, this house was getting gutted and completely rebuilt. So carpet, who knows what was coming out of there. But the dump truck was just there to pitch garbage into, and then he would go dump it wherever, I don't know. But we lived on a gravel road, and Donald was my friend across the street, and we had this brilliant idea to see who could skid their bike furthest, and that just means going as fast as you can on your bike, locking up the back brake, and seeing how far you can skid. Well, we were getting some pretty long ones going. I mean, we were right there on the brink of being teenagers, and we're pretty strong, and we were avid bike riders. We rode every day and everywhere, so we were pretty good on those bikes. And we get cruising pretty far. And when you hit the brakes, you'd send gravel flying everywhere, and you'd leave this big, long skid mark. Well, we got the idea that because we had to measure them, because we had a line where you were supposed to start skidding, but we kept overshooting the line, undershooting it. We could never see who was winning the longest skid contest. So we decided to get my dad's tape measure. And it was one of those ones that rolls. It rolls out like a crank on the side, and it was 100 foot long. Well, we were measuring our first skid, and he's holding it on one end, and I'm pulling the tape measure out, and I'm not looking down, and he's saying, I exceeded 100 feet. And the first time we were measuring one, I broke that tape measure, and my dad had that tape measure since I could remember. In fact, there was about 3 things that he had that I always associated with him, because as far back as I could remember, there was 4 things. There was a workbench and 2 hammers and that tape measure. Been around in my family forever. Matter of fact, I still have one of those hammers. But anyways, so I broke my dad's prized and used everyday tape measure. I'm like, Don, what are we going to do? Because this is a long metal ribbon now, 100 foot plus of metal ribbon. What do I do with it? What are we going to do? And he didn't care. He wasn't helpful. I don't know. Do whatever you want with it. I don't care. And I said, man, you got to help me. You're part of this. He didn't. I don't know. He kind of had his own thoughts on doing other stuff. But I got him finally roped in, and I said, well, we can climb up in that dump truck and hide it underneath the garbage in the front. And he's like, sure, yeah, whatever. So one of us climbed up in there, lifted up the garbage, and the other one climbed up with all this big, wacky ball of metal ribbon, metal tape measure ribbon, and stuffed it under all this wood and everything. And, thought we had the perfect crime. Well, then we realized, and then my dad had been walking around later, a day or two later, asking, anybody see my tape measure? Anybody see my tape measure? No, nope, no tape measure here. And I started getting a little paranoid, because I kind of realized that if he went to somewhere and dumped that load of garbage off in that dump truck, that even because we had buried the tape measure in the bottom, it was going to now come out and end up on top, right in plain sight. Everybody would see it. My dad would catch it, whatever. Wherever he dumped it, it was going to be highly visible. So I started cooking up ideas on who to blame, because blaming was just the name of the game. You want to get out of trouble, you find somebody to blame. And so I started, and there had been these other guys there that he hired. So I had the story all cooked up in my mind that I was going to blame one of these other guys, these people, these carpenters that had come and were putting a new roof on the house. Yep, I'm going to blame them. They are the ones that broke his tape measure and tried to hide it. So how am I going to do that? Well, eventually I gave up on that idea, because it had nothing to do with being dishonest. At that point in my life, I guess I was too worried about getting busted. And I finally realized I am not going to get away with that. He's going to ask those guys. I can't even come up with a good way to frame them. I got to come up with something better. So, as luck would have it, they were building a new porch. We're pouring it, concrete. And the truck had to be moved because that's where a new porch was going, and the forms were built for it, and a cement truck was coming and was going to dump cement in there, and we'd have a brand new big old porch versus a little step that had once, I think it was a wooden step, in fact. So we were pitching, rocks and stuff in there to fill up the space to use less concrete, and I had this brilliant plan that I was going to sneak that tape measure out of the truck and into the hole and bury it. Now, I think I've told the story in the past that I actually did that. To be honest, I'm looking back right now and I'm not too sure I did. I know I wanted to, and I know that was my plan, but I don't know if I managed to execute it or not. I mean, how are you going to get a big old ribbon of tape measure? I mean, we're talking about a bundle of tape out of the back of a truck in front of everybody and get it into a hole where a guy is pouring concrete with other people standing around looking. Unless I snuck it in the night before or something like that, I don't know. So it went one of two places. My plan was to put it into that porch, in which case that porch is still there today. That's like 1980. So yeah, here it is 40 years later. It's either 40 plus years later, and it's either still inside that porch, or I gave up on the idea and went with the idea of blaming somebody else. Either way, I never got caught, never got busted for it, never called on it. I have no idea if anybody ever saw it or not, but it was never traced back to me, so I guess in that respect it was the perfect crime. Not through my own genius, though, just through probably pure dumb luck, you might say. And that gives us time for just about one more. So we're going to go with the Bonnie Slop Bucket. So once, maybe twice a year at most, we would go to Spokane as a family. It's a city. And we would always stay with my Aunt Bonnie. The only reason we'd go up there was either school shopping or back to school shopping, or an auction that my dad would want to go to. Now, I hated the auction trips because he always made me go to the auction. They were military auctions, and they were extremely boring for a kid. But, of course, if there was school shopping or something, or some other reason to be there, just visiting, then he just went and did stuff with his brothers, and I got left with our hosts, my mom, my sisters, whatever, my cousins. I got finally to have some fun. I think he took me along because he didn't want me around some of the cousins. He knew that, he thought they were trouble, and I probably would have to agree with him, but whatever the case. So here we are at my Aunt Bonnie's, and I'm bored because there's nobody my age. All the kids were older than me. Well, so I'm out playing in the backyard looking around because my uncle was kind of a pack rat. He had old cars back there, and kind of was like living at home. There's always something kind of interesting to pick through, and there's a kid next door. He's my age, and he's like, hey, we get to know each other, and I think he said his name was Wayne. I want to say it was Wayne, but I'm not sure. And anyways, so we're playing around, dicking, just enjoying ourselves, and he says, hey, you want to make a stew? And I said, yeah, let's make a stew. What are you talking about? Stew. Okay. So he had this big tub, like a big giant bucket with a rope. And we started at one end of the alley, and we're pulling it. And we're going through people's garbage cans and putting old food in there, and old eggshells and juice or anything we can find, old gravy and stuff. And we're making this big nasty slop bucket of just absolute filth out of people's garbage cans, and we were pulling all the way down the alley, and we get all the way back to Bonnie's house. And this thing is heavy by now, and it's just full of stinky, rotten food. And I don't know why this kid was so impressed with that, but I wasn't so impressed with it anymore. And it was kind of getting gross to me. And I kind of figured, we're gonna get in trouble for this. I just can feel it. So I started thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I got to get out of this before it happens. So we're right at the corner of where his house property met her house property in the alley. And there's this nasty, stinky slop bucket. And I said, I got to go to the bathroom. He's like, okay, whatever. And I go into Bonnie's house. I didn't go to the bathroom. Aunt Bonnie. Yeah, what's up? What's up, Mike? I think she may have called me Mikey back then. Anyways, I said, Wayne's out there. He's doing weird stuff. What? Yeah, that kid next door, he's out there doing weird stuff. What do you mean? Show me. Well, okay. So she goes out the back door, and I kind of standing behind her. Wayne, what are you making another one of them slop buckets? He's like, yeah. And I'm standing behind her, like going, yeah, bad kid. And I'm calling your mother. And he's like, oh, I'll clean it up. No, I'm calling your mother. So he starts pulling the slop bucket down the other way down the alley. And, of course, she's looking at me. Good job. You did the right thing. You saw him doing that, and you questioned it. I'm like, yeah, look at me. A number one. Responsible citizen. That's me. You should be asleep by now. And if you're not, shame on you. But this is the end of this video. Good night.